Okay, I'm going to quickly record myself going through this quiz just to show how easy it should have been. Here we're asking for the fourth root of 256. You could ask the calculator. You have two choices. You do 256 raised to the 1/4. Since it's an even root, you need two answers. Okay, -4 times -4 times -4 times -4 is also 256. Okay, here we're asking for the cube root of -8. I know it's -2, but so does your calculator. So you can ask the calculator. For this one, real easy to type in 5 divided by 6. So we're raising to the 5/6. I get a nice answer of 32. Okay. Now for this problem, you can type in exactly what you see, parentheses. You can hit the math key, option 5. I need to have the fifth root of a -24, push away, close the parentheses, raise to the third power. And I get about -6.73, so 2 decimal places. If you don't like that, I could raise it to the 3/5 power. Okay, so I get the same answer, parentheses -24, raised to the 3/5 power. It's identical. So it's your choice how you want to type that in. For this problem, these are alike. Okay, I need you to realize there's your power, there's your root. It's the same exponent. I have -10, take away one of them, I have -9. So I'll accept that answer. Or if you want to write it in radical form, it's saying the same thing. Okay. Here we're asking for the square root. I told you I'd make sure all the exponents are even, but you need to know the square root of 121 is an 11. And then I just take half. I'm multiplying by 1/2. 10 times 1/2 is 5. Half of 6 is a 3. Okay. You would take this times itself, you're back to what's underneath. Okay. Here I'm describing my transformation. I see a negative in front, so we all should know that it's a reflection. Now it's about the x-axis. You don't need to put that. Since that +3 is on the outside, we simply know it's up 3. Okay, now someone could type that into their calculator just to show that that's the movements. For this one, my conjugate is just simply changing this sign. So this plus becomes a minus. Nothing else can change. So I have -4 minus the square root of 5. Up top, we get a -20 when I distribute. And then when you multiply a regular number times a radical, you can just write them next to each other. So it's -5√5. In the bottom, I have to have a nice number. So -4 times -4 is always going to be 16. And then we're going to have a minus. This times this is going to be √25, which becomes a regular 5. So we get a nice 11. And we are done with that page. Okay, next problem. I warned you about these. We can only combine like things. So since I have the cube root of 3, chances are I'm going to end up with breaking up 81, and you'll see very quickly 81 is not a perfect cube root, but when I divide by 3, I get 27. So 81 is really 27 times 3. I'll write this other term. This becomes a 3. Okay, so this right here becomes a 3. So I have 3 that I already had here times another 3, which really makes it 9 of them. Okay, so I have 9, take away 3 of them. I'm just going to rewrite this so I show all my steps. 9 take away 3 is 6. That's what I was looking for. Okay, this one, real easy. I can reduce. Okay, I could do this without a calculator. I know it's the cube root of 64, and I know without a calculator that 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So the cube root of 64 is a regular 4. Okay, here I'm just having you practice factoring. There's nothing to solve, so you can't solve for x. So this is a diamond problem. I want you to be good at AC method. We will come up with a combination. In my head, I already know it's going to be an 8 and a negative 3. So 8x and a negative 3x satisfies the diamond. And so I'm going to change this. I'm going to change that 5x into an 8x minus 3x. Okay, nothing else changes. It's still the same problem. These two terms still gives you the 5x, but allows us to split it down the middle. Oops. We have to factor out a 4x, and if I factor out a 4x, I'm going to have an x plus 2 in parentheses. So on the other side, what's in common is a 3, but since it's negative, you're going to factor out a negative 3, and look what happens. We end up with x plus 2 inside the parentheses. We must. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Therefore, we know the pieces on the outside makes up one of our factors, and the x plus 2 is the other factor. Okay, and again, someone should multiply that out just to make sure that it gets you back to the original, and it will. 4x times x is 4x squared. Outers and inners will agree with that 5x, and a negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Okay, for this one, it is a quartic, so you have to break up x to the fourth as x squared. It's a positive 6, but since I need a negative 7, I need minus minus. So I'm going to have a 6 and 1. And don't stop there. I'm going to take a point off if you stop here. You can't factor x squared minus 6, but you can factor x squared minus 1 is x plus 1, x minus 1. That is fully factored. Okay? This one, I know it's a reflection. Okay? I know it's going to be reflected about the x. And normally, square root functions go up like this. It's going to go down because it's going to be a reflection. And I also know, before I even pick up a calculator, I'm moving to the right too. Okay? So I know it's going to look like this, but I'm going to type this into my calculator. I'm going to go to the y equals screen, type in negative square root of x minus 2. Make sure that x and minus 2 are underneath your radical. We can hit graph. We can see that it's going to go down like that. If you go to your table, you can see, and a lot of these you can do in your head, but I can also plot 6, negative 2. So when x is 6, if I plug in a 6 here, I get an outcome of negative 2. That's enough dots to draw my graph. Okay? My domain has to be x values greater or equal to 2. And you say, why is that? I get an error when x is 1. Okay? If I try to just plug in a 1 or anything that is to the left of 2, I'm going to get an error. Okay, so as long as your inputs are greater or equal to 2, you're good. And notice all your outcomes, all your y values are going to be 0 and negatives. Okay, there's not going to be a positive outcome. So that just tells me all my y values are going to be less than or equal to 0. Okay, for this, we're writing a cube root function. So it's y equals the cube root of something. And what I need to know is realize I am shifting this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the left. Again, this was to the right, so I know it's x plus 5, and then I shifted 1, 2, 3 down. So it's a minus 3. There's my roll. And again, you could plug that into your calculator. You would have enough time. And then both the domain and range, this graph goes on forever in all directions. It's all reals. Okay? Hey, 9 minutes, and we're done with 2 pages. That leaves our last page, where all I'm asking to do is to solve some simple equations. I need to undo the cubing by taking the cube root. Okay, so I know it's 5, so I'm just basically raising both either to the 1/3 or take the cube root of 125. You're going to get 5, and one move, and you get 10. Okay, for this one, we have to subtract 2. You get a 48. You must divide by 3. So 48, I should be able to do that in my head, but 48 divided by 3 is going to be a 16. And then I raise it to the 1/4 or take the 4th root. It's an even root. Okay, so the calculator is only going to tell us the one answer, which is going to be 2, but it's going to be your job to put plus or minus 2. Okay? Easiest question on the test. I give you the volume of a cube, and all I'm asking you to do is take the cube root. So 3744 raised to the 1/3 power, or take the cube root. You get about 15.53, and it's inches. Okay, that one's super easy. The last one's super easy. We've seen this problem numerous times. Only thing I can change is the volume. I have the formula for a sphere. So you do this on a calculator. Let's clear the calculator. It's 1473 divided by 4/3. I mentioned putting 4/3 in parentheses. You hit enter. You then, whoops, I forgot to hit divide. We divide by pi. Second caret key is our pi. Okay, so I'll write this. It's 351.65 something equals r cubed. Your last step then is to raise to the 1/3, or take the cube root, and you're going to get 7.06, and it's inches. Okay, so 11 minutes to do this quiz. Okay, so working, if you're able to do the review, I let you work together. This should be all stuff that we feel very comfortable with. Okay, so if you did struggle, I'm hoping you didn't, but if you did, I'm hoping this video shows you this is what we must be able to do to be successful, especially when we take our Chapter 5 test. Thank you for watching. Take care.